A very good afternoon, 8th class. Now we are reading the 7th chapter of the history part, Education and British Rule. In previous video, we have studied about the education in British period, beginning of Western education, and little bit part of the British policies. Okay, and in this video, let me revise again this chapter. Students, modern education began in India when? Under British rule, before the British. India has its own educational system like Gurukul, Madrasas. The East India Company, during their first most 60 years of rule, did not care much for the education of those they ruled India. British government used education as a weapon and a tool for promoting its interest. And British laid a stress on the teaching of English language and its literature, and the study of Indian language were generally neglected. Moreover, modern education was based on logic and scientific research rather than on its faith and rituals. New schools and colleges and universities were open for the spread of English language and literature. Let we understand the causes or objectives of modern education. So, it means introduction of new education system or modern education. So, what were the main causes to appoint Indians? To appoint Indians. Where? On the administration. It means in a different department they needed a large number of such employees and who could not be brought from England. That's why. Okay, and second point is there to encourage the study of which language? English language. यही तो मेन पर्पस था, English language and spread of Western culture. Okay, this one is a big reason for introduction of the modern education. And the third one, to expand market. To expand market for what? For English goods. They want to become the Indians more modify according their needed. Okay, and spread of Christianity, spread of Christianity. So these were the causes or objectives for the introduction of new education system or modern education. So here now we are talking about the steps taken by the company to introduce Western education in India. So what the steps? It means the students, Why? इसकी ज़रूरत क्यों पड़ी? Because I already told you causes and objectives for the introduction of new education means modern education. Now first of all, early effects. The first point is there, early effects. What was the early effect? Early effect means in the beginning, the company never took it as its duty to give education to the Indians. It was a commercial company. Commercial means to earn more profit. And its sole motive was to earn profit and not to spend money on education. Nevertheless, some British officers, in their individual capacity, tried to make reforms in this direction. Okay. And the second one is, what the second step was taken by the company? It was Charter Act. Charter Act 1813. It means Charter Act passed by the British Parliament. Who passed? Passed by the British Parliament. Okay. Renewed the East India Company's charter for another 20 years. And this is also called, this Charter Act is also called, what called? Company East India Company Act 1813. Okay, and this act is important, and that is defined for the first time constitutional position of British Indian territories. Okay, and it laid the foundation of Western education. And Charles Grant, who introduced the act. Who introduced this act? Who introduced? So, it Charles Grant introduced the act, is also considered as father of modern India. Father of modern India. Is that clear? By this act, the British took upon themselves the responsibility of providing education to Indians and sectioned an amount of 1 lakh rupee. How much? 1 lakh rupee. First time. Rupees 1 lakh annually for the spread of education. Okay, means there was a provision that company should invest rupees 1 lakh every year on the education of Indians. It means every year. Got it? As a result, from 1813 to 1857, from 1813 to 1857, what was the result that time? The company opened many schools and colleges under their control, which laid the foundation of English system of education in India. Got it? Now the next step taken by the third one. Next step taken by the company. Which one? English Act. English Act. And when? 1835. Got it? It means it was during the period of Lord William Banting. And who was Lord William Banting? Lord William Banting. He was Governor General of India. Governor General of India that period. Okay. One more thing, student. It was during the period of Lord William Banting that Lord Macaulay promoted the teaching and English Act 1835 was a legislative act of the Council of India, gave effect a decision in 1835. Lord William Banting, the Governor General of British Government, East India Company, to reallocate funds. It was required by the British Parliament to spend on education and literature in India. On the basis of recommendation means what the things needed that time of Macaulay Minute. So first question is there कि who was Macaulay? Let me understand about this. Macaulay, Thomas Babington Macaulay. He played a major role in the introduction of English and Western concept of education in India. Lord Macaulay is known to introduce British education system in India. Got it? He was not a big fan of Indian traditional education system. English should be used as the medium of instruction in school of India, and science and Western literature should be taught in Indian schools to Indians. Got it? And he introduced and their recommendations also published in argument on the subject in the Macaulay Minute in 1835. It means his provisions, also known as Macaulay Minute. What are the things given in the Macaulay Minutes? It means the money allotted for education would be spent on promoting Western education through the medium of English. It abolished Persian as a court language, replacing it with English, and teaching of English could thus be a way of civilizing people, changing their taste, value and culture. Now one more question is there, student. Who is the father of Indian system education? Answer will be Thomas Babington Macaulay. Okay. In 1834, Macaulay, a bookish intellectual, his mission was to serve to the Supreme Council to India and to advise the Governor General Lord William Banting. Okay. And he is one of the person who destroyed the Gurukul. One more question is there. Who destroyed the Gurukul? So, Lord Macaulay, means Thomas Babington Macaulay, They liberated the use of English language in every Gurukul and criticized the Gurukul of India. So Britishers destroyed the Gurukul and the Gurukul were set on fire and teachers of Gurukul were killed. Okay, why? Because the Englishmen educated Indians just for the supply of Indians in their offices. Their main aim was not to be educate Indians. Also some features described also here. So what the features of English Act 1835? To make a English medium. What was the medium for education? English medium. Okay, English medium, of instruction in higher educational institution. Okay, and to no longer promote Oriental institution such as Calcutta Madrasa. Okay, and Banaras College. Or what the next feature? To introduce English textbooks in school. Only English text books. Got it? Now the next step, this one is the fourth step taken by the company, which was wood dispatch. Woods dispatch. When? 1854. Is that clear, students? Introduced in 1854 by Charles Wood. Who introduced this wood dispatch? Charles Wood. And this document covered a complete plan for spread of education in India. And Wood Dispatch outlined the practical benefits of Western education. Means Charles Wood the president of the board. He was the president. Where? President of Board of Council. Board of Council. Did immense job in spreading education in India. When 1854, he sent a dispatch to Lord Dalhousie. He sent, okay, means this outlined the practical benefits of Western education. File sent. Where sent? Lord Dalhousie. And Lord Dalhousie, Governor General of India. Governor General of India. That time. Okay. It was recommended. What recommended? The education department was to be established in every year. Okay, and universities on the model of the London University be established in big cities. Which big cities? Such as Bombay, Calcutta and Madras. At least one government school should be open in every district. Affiliated private schools should be given grant in education. Okay, it means English education department established in every prominence, and one government school should be open in every district, and The Indian native school should be given training, means training should be given their mother tongue, and one another also affiliated private school should be given grant in education also. Okay, and in accordance with the Wood Dispatch Education Department were established in every province, and universities were open. Were open? Calcutta University were open. Universities were open. Calcutta, Madras, and Bombay. When? 1837. Okay, and Punjab University also was opened that time. Punjab University. Punjab. When? 1882. And one another also, Allahabad. When? 1887. Okay. So these are the steps taken by the company to introduce Western education in India. Okay. Early effects means ki, why they needed. Why? Because their motive was to earn profit and not to spend money on that period. But some Britishers also means Englishmen educated Indians just for the supply of Indians in their offices, but their main aim was not to educate Indians. Okay, and Charter Act 1813 also, the second one Early English Act 1835, and Wood Dispatch 1854. Now we will read the merits and demerits of Wood Dispatch. Merits, advantages, merits, and what the demerits of Wood Dispatch. So merits are there. It means it made the government realize. It made the government realize the importance of education for people, and it gave a comprehensive scheme of education for which level? Primary level, secondary level, and higher education also. And it encouraged the promotion of mass education, and grants in aid system encouraged private organization to open new school. Okay, and regional and classical language were taught in schools, and universities also, next point also there, universities were established in Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras for higher education, and it emphasized the necessity, means promote vocational education and teacher training institute. These are the merits of Wood Dispatch, and also some the demerits. Demerits points are also here. The first one is given. It means this system now proved to be a failure because mass education was neglected, and the officials were interested only in education of a handful of Indians, and it adopted the downward filtration theory also, because it was believed that education will filter down from the upper and middle class to the masses, and the educated upper class would help in the spread of education among the masses. but it did not happen. Okay, it means mass education was neglected. And the second one, due to lack of government funding, the number of primary schools was very less. It means primary schools was less due to the lack of government fund. In the beginning of 20th century, 3 out of 4 children were not going to school. And there was a decline in the number of indigenous system of education. It means many vernacular elementary schools closed down due to stiff competition from the British aided school. Okay, and the next one is promote Western education and culture also. Means the dispatch was more interested in promoting Western knowledge and culture. Indian students had no exposure to their culture. Their culture became a source of embarrassment for them. And the next one, produced clerk, means the dispatch produced a class of clerk and accountants with no leadership quality. And women education continued to be neglected. It means in 1921 only 2% Indian women could read and write. And it blindly followed the Western model, which was not of much practical utility to Indians. So there was a little provision for scientific or technical education. It did not promote vocational education as required. Thus, education remained the interest and privilege of only the wealthy people. Students, the education system under the British had many flaws and thus was criticized by many Indian reforms and activists. Reforms means a person who tries to change society and make it better. So, mass education was ignored and a few primary schools were set up. In the field of primary education, the anticipated result could not be achieved due to the shortage of funds, indifferent attitude of the personnel, and crooked policy of the government. In comparison to the increase of population, the development of education was rather at a slow pace. During the British rule in India, the downward filtration theory was adopted in the country. And the downward filtration theory means coming down of education from the higher class people to the lower class or the general people. This, however, never worked in practice. And many reforms means a person who tries to change society and make it better. So many reforms such as Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Swami Vivekanand, Swami Dayanand and Jyotiba Phule actively supported and encouraged education of women and set up schools and colleges for the Indian masses. And they considered that reformation in the society could only be achieved if the common people were educated, and they worked hard for the reformation of the society and to change the mindset of the people. Reforms like Ravindranath Tagore and Mahatma Gandhi were not in favor of Western education and wanted to end it. Mahatma Gandhi argued that colonial education created a sense of inferiority among Indians. It destroyed the pride they had in their own culture. So, there was poison in this education. It was said by the Mahatma Gandhi. And Mahatma Gandhi also said that it was sinful and it enslaved Indians. Education in English distanced them from their own social surroundings and made them stranger in their own lands. He supported an education system that would inculcate a sense of pride for their own culture and values among the Indians. He wanted Indians to learn Indian language, not in English language. Mahatma Gandhi wanted that students are taught to read and write along with the training in craft like a spinning, weaving, pottery, etc. As a nationalist sentiments spread, other thinkers also began thinking of a system of national education which would be radically different from the set up by the Britishers. And according to Rabindranath Tagore, English system of education did not foster creativity in the student. He wanted education to combine the best elements of both the Western and the Indian concept. In 1901, he started the Vishwa Bharati University, where in Shanti Niketan, the abode of peace. In Shantiniketan, children were taught art, music and dance along with science and technology. In many ways, Tagore and Mahatma Gandhi had a similar view about education. And the students' national education means studying Western education brought many Indians in touch with the writing of some of the great thinkers of the world who wrote about liberty and freedom of all nations and equality to all. Rabindranath Tagore and Raja Ram Mohan Rai realized that British system had failed to educate the masses. They planned to set up a new system of education on the national level and decided to set up a National Council of Education. It raised funds and opened many schools and colleges to spread education. National Muslim University, where in Aligarh and Tilak Maharashtra Vidyapeeth. Vidyapeeth were some of the important colleges started by the National Council of India. And students, some enlightened Indians believed that India had neglected science for too long, and that is the reason for our backwardness. They argued to set up Department of Science in the national universities. In 1876, Indian Association for the Cultivation of Science was set up in Calcutta. In 1920, the Indian Science Congress Association was set up, where scientists from all over India gathered to exchange their views. The national universities has produced world-renowned scientists like C.V. Raman and S.N. Bose and E.C. Bose, Birbal Sani and Meghnath Saha. Okay, so now this chapter is over. I think you got it. Watch this video attentively and read the chapter. Now in next video, we will do some question answer and exercise of this chapter. So till then, have a nice day and keep reading.